We play and call it work.
Hey folks, Janene from MiniWarGaming here with another how-to video for you. In this video, we are going to start painting this Death Guard Plague Marine from the new Easy to Build box. And we are going to begin by doing a nice Nurgle green armor. As always, if you have suggestions for something you'd like to see in a future how-to video, please leave them down below in the comments. We're going to begin by doing a little bit of airbrushing. We're going to start with the color Castellan Green. This color has a Citadel Air equivalent, but I don't have it on hand, so I'm just going to go ahead and mix my own paint. I'm just using a little bit of paint, a little bit of medium. In this case, I'm using water, but use whatever medium you're comfortable with. And I'm going to mix it up until it's a really thin consistency that still sprays out of the airbrush very smoothly, but doesn't get stuck and doesn't clog up the brush in any way. Once I have the paint in my airbrush, I'm just going to spray this all over the Plague Marine. I want to get this all over the black. I want to cover every nook and cranny. And this is really going to be my dark green base, so I want to make sure that the model is fully covered. Since I'm mixing my own paint, I tend to mix it a little bit thinner than the Citadel Air paints, so it's going to take me a couple layers to build up the color, and that's fine. I would rather do 2 thin layers and have more control than to do a really thick layer but have it gloop and run and lose details on the model. The next color is going to be Deathworld Forest. I'm also going to airbrush this on. I'm going to be a little bit more selective about where it's applied. I'm going to put it over about 80% of the armor. However, I want to leave that darker green in the shadows. Once we've sprayed those 2 layers on, we are done with the airbrush. Our next color is going to be with Bieltan Green. And I just want to use a little bit of this color to outline all of the armored plates. I'm adding in a few of the shadows that kind of get sprayed over with the airbrush. And I don't want to apply this very heavily everywhere. I'm just outlining and creating a dark line to really make all of the armored areas stand out from each other. There's also a lot of pock marks on this armor, and normally that would be a perfect place to put a shade like this. However, I'm going to be highlighting those slightly different. And I'm going to be adding some different colors so they look diseased, and so I want to avoid putting this green in those areas. After that Bieltan Green has dried, our next step is going to be to take a little bit of Deathworld Forest and mix it into some Elysian Green. I'm going to mix it about 50-50 with a little bit of Lamian Medium as well, just to make sure that my paint is really smooth and thin and has a good flow, and it will let me blend it really easily. And we're going to start building up the highlight towards the top of all of the armor plates and towards the edges. So the top area is where the light would be hitting the armor the most, so we want to make sure that those areas are the brightest. But also the edges of the armor, we kind of want to highlight those as well. I'm also going to catch the top of some of these pock marks just so that they stand out a little bit more, though I want to make sure that I leave the inside area completely unpainted. Next, we're going to take Elysian Green and we're going to mix it into Nurgle Green, 50-50, and we're going to highlight all of the areas that we just painted a little bit more selectively, but we're going to continue to push the highlight towards the top of the armor and outlining the hard edges on the armored plates. Now, as I paint this color, I'm going to have that mixture that I just applied to the model, my previous slightly darker green, on my palette so that I can blend the 2 colors together if there's anywhere where the contrast is too stark. So I'm just going to put this Elysian Green down. Again, it's mixed with Lamian Medium to make sure that it's really smooth. And then I can clean my brush off real quickly, grab some of my previous paint, and kind of blend that line a little bit. There's a couple different areas on this armor, and the way that they're painted is going to be handled slightly differently. So for example, on the front of the legs, we have these really large sections that have a lot of open space. And on that area, I'm going to be doing a lot more blending and a lot more of making sure that I have a smooth transition of colors. And then you've got this area at the top of the chest, which is not as large of an area. I still want to make sure I blend, but there my priority is going to be to make sure that it's really clean and that it's really bright on the very top of the shoulders, since that area is going to be in the most light. And then you also have areas like the fingers where it's just lots of lines and hard armored segments. And on that area, I'm going to be doing more of a line. I want to make sure that I'm really exaggerating all of those armored sections. And the same thing is true for the hard lines on the back of the leg. And then on the feet, for example, I'm going to be highlighting it in a way that exaggerates the sculpted texture of the foot area. That makes it look almost like a hoof. So I'm going to be doing more straight lines and really exaggerating that look. And then for my final highlight, I want to use a little bit of Nurgling green. So I'm taking a thin detail brush and I'm going to be using this as more of an outline or a very thin super highlight on the top of all of my highlights. I'm not necessarily making a full line on any one area, but this is just going to add a final pop of Nurgly brightness and make the armor stand out even more. The last thing I want to do is to paint these pock marks in the armor. I'm going to begin by using a little bit of Fugan Orange. And I'm going to paint this inside all of these holes and also just slightly around the outer rim. My highlight is going to show through a little bit, but it's going to make it seem like whatever disease is emanating from these sections is kind of spreading a little bit into the rest of the armor. Once the Fugan Orange has dried, we're going to use a little bit of Averland Sunset. And this is just going to be a highlight in the very middle of each of these pock marks. I want to make sure that that area stands out and it seems like it's kind of pussy and gross. And with that last little bit of yellow highlight, the armored section on this Death Guard Plague Marine is complete. Thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to see more how-to videos, I have another one where I'm going to paint all of the fleshy tentacles that are crawling through this armor in the MiniWarGaming Vault, and the link down below in the description. If you don't already have a Vault membership, you can go ahead and click the link, sign up for a 7-day free trial, and get access to my video as well as hundreds of other videos in the MiniWarGaming Vault. So go ahead, click the link, start your free trial, and happy wargaming!